Who will be the next men's basketball commitment for the Louisville Cardinals? We'll answer that on today's episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Stay tuned.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. Today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. As always, I want to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the Locked On Louisville podcast is free on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Excuse me. The main question Louisville fans are asking themselves on Sunday evening: who is going to be the next commitment for the Louisville men's basketball team? It is going to be between two players, in my opinion. We'll identify those two players here shortly. We'll also talk about another player on campus this past weekend, a sort of a surprise visitor, Ben Humrichous from Evansville. Very, very dynamic player. And then to conclude the show, we will discuss the women's basketball team adding two very key players for next year's team, both via the high school ranks and the transfer portal. Let me just preface this segment by encouraging Louisville fans to relax. I understand the radio silence from this weekend, which was supposed to be a very, very key recruiting weekend for the Louisville basketball program. It's not encouraging, right? Obviously, we'd like to hear about commitments immediately. And as of 8:30 on Sunday evening, there hasn't been a commitment made. I would suggest that just because there's not a commitment made now doesn't mean there won't be one as a result of this weekend. In fact, there could end up being multiple. But who's going to be the first one? Who's going to be the next commitment for the men's basketball program? It comes down to two players, in my opinion. Washington's Koren or Long Beach State's Aboubacar Traore. Both were on campus this weekend. Traore got in last Thursday for an official visit, and Koren got here on Saturday. To my knowledge, both left without making a public commitment, but it seems like things are looking beneficial for Louisville's chances. I understand people are concerned since we have, 5 commitments: James Scott, Rain Smith, Terrence Edwards Jr., Javon Hadley, and then Ali Khalifa, who won't be playing next season. You've got 4 players. You have basically 8 spots to fill. So I understand where the concern is coming from, suggesting that, well, why is Pat Kelsey not closing the deal? We don't know that he hasn't yet. In fact, I would probably suggest that he has. Now, I understand how this works. I'm talking about this on the show. So one of two things is going to happen. Number one, one of these guys is going to commit immediately following the episode to where everything will be moot and it won't even matter. Or option number 2, which is the far more discouraging one, is that for some reason something changes to where they don't commit. But I would expect that if you made me choose who it's going to be, and you said, okay, you identified 2, but you now have to pick one, I'd probably say Washington guard Koren Johnson. He got a crystal ball projection from someone for the Cardinals program last week, made the official visit. Sometimes it takes a little bit to make graphics. I'm not necessarily sure if that's what the holdup is here. I just personally think that he's going to be the next commitment. Is that an indication of inside information that I have? Not really. It's sort of reading through the grapevine and putting the pieces together. Koren Johnson would be a very good addition to this team. I would welcome him being the next commitment. I went as far as saying last week multiple times, to be completely honest, on the record, that he is atop of my Louisville basketball wish list outside of Jaden Quaintance. Koren Johnson averaged 11.1 points per game this past season for the Huskies, was the Pac-12 Sixth Man of the Year from the Seattle area, which is an area that really emphasizes a ton of offensive creation, solid dribbling, the ability to create your own shot. Koren Johnson embodies what it means to be a basketball player from the Pacific Northwest, specifically up in Seattle. We obviously have a tie to Seattle on the Louisville program, who is now a coach, or I should say a member of the staff, Peyton Siva from Seattle, former national champion back in 2013. He's now on the staff. So there is that Seattle connection. And don't get me wrong, Siva's name holds weight up in Seattle. Make no mistake about it. So for whatever reason, we haven't really heard much. It's not ideal, but I don't think it's room for concern just yet. Now, if we go 24 hours and we're having the same conversation at 8:40 on Monday evening, then there might be some issues, right? Then you're worrying about, oh, well, we heard about these guys coming in and that there will be multiple commitments potentially and that there's not end up being one. And it does make you wonder. But we're not going to panic yet. We're going to let Pat Kelsey cook. He started out very solidly in terms of constructing this roster. And we're going to give him a little bit of time. We're going to give him the benefit of the doubt here because at this point he has given us he's given us no evidence to suggest that we shouldn't give him time. I think it's just a matter of timing. I ultimately think that Louisville is going to get at least one commitment out of this weekend, potentially multiple. There's a good chance that both Koren Johnson and Aboubacar Traore both commit. Is it likely? I'm not sure what the probability is. Is it possible? 100% is possible. They wouldn't be on campus if it wasn't. I think that you have a better chance at Johnson than you do Traore. That's just sort of a gut feeling intuition there. But even then, you have to feel good about where Louisville's, what Louisville was able to do on the visit. For those who don't know, Oakland star Trey Townsend unfortunately did not make the visit to the 502, which was something that I stated multiple times that I was worrying about when it was announced that he was going to get the third visit in the sequence from Arizona, Ohio State, and Louisville. I'm like, if he makes it to campus. Omar Ballo didn't make it to campus. Trey Townsend didn't make it to campus. You pretty much have to get that first visit, in my opinion. I'd say 8 times out of 10, the first visit that a player makes in the portal is probably where they're going. I don't really have the statistics to back that up, but it feels like that's almost like a trend. It's like the earlier the visit in the portal, the better chance you have. So Louisville was, I believe, Koren Johnson's first visit. I believe they were Aboubacar Traore's first visit as well. I can't confirm that, but they did make those visits. So you have to feel good. In terms of Jaden Quaintance, look, you all know as much as I do at 8:42 on Sunday evening. I'm not sure what the timeline is for some of these things. I'm actually trying to keep social media close because I don't know when things are going to happen. They could happen late Sunday evening after this episode, and it's like, oh, well, don't even click on this episode. I guess it looks like I just wasted 30 minutes or 10 minutes of this segment because we're still going to have 2 very good segments after this. Jaden Quaintance, this is a tough one to decipher because it's not a transfer portal recruitment. It's a high school recruitment to where you have the luxury of time on your side if you're JQ. Louisville, on the other hand, maybe not necessarily so much. Him not committing on his visit, it's not ideal, but it's not a cause for alarm just yet. Now, if he schedules that Arkansas official visit, I think it's over. I think he's going to the Razorbacks. The only chance you have in this recruitment, in my opinion, is if he announces a commitment date and is not visiting Arkansas. That's sort of the reality for me, because if he's going to take that visit, he's probably going to Kentucky. So just something to keep in your mind. For me, it's not really a matter of inside information. I think, in my opinion, Koren Johnson will be the next Louisville commitment. If not, it'll be Aboubacar Traore. It could end up being this next player that we're going to introduce to the show here in just a minute. And before we do that, however, I want to tell you about our friends and the title sponsor of the show, LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is not just another job board. It helps you find professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're looking on LinkedIn, or if you're not looking, I should say, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. You hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Cardinal fans, if you are also an NFL fan, the NFL draft is here in a couple days. The Locked On NFL mock draft is available now. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on Locked On NFL Draft to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the Fantasy Football Edge. The Locked On NFL mock draft is available now on Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. A player that was on campus, I mentioned over the weekend, or before the weekend, I should say, that sometimes schools schedule surprise visits or pretty late edition visits. That was the case this weekend. Louisville brought Ben Humrichous from Evansville University, or the University of Evansville, to campus. He was on a visit. Some people actually saw him with the staff at, I think it was either Jeff Ruby's or Ruth Chris. I think it was Ruth Chris with Koren Johnson. They took a picture of him. There is picture evidence that Ben Humrichous and Koren Johnson were both on visits to the University of Louisville. Humrichous has a very unique journey to this point. He started on the NAIA level before transferring to Evansville this past year, and then led the Aces, or the Purple Aces, in scoring with 14.7 points per game. And this guy is as dynamic and unique as it gets. So Humrichous is 6'9" and can do a little bit of everything. Played 24 games this past season, about 30 minutes a game, 14.7 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, 1.9 assists, but shot 48% from the field, 41% from three on about 5 attempts, and also about 76% from the free throw line. Now, Humrichous isn't really a household name because obviously he just came from the NAIA level, Huntington University in Indiana, but transferred to Evansville and, just absolutely exploded onto the scene. Humrichous is like if Trey Townsend was a great fit for the 4 at Louisville. I think Humrichous, offensively speaking, is probably an elite fit. Might not be a better player than Trey Townsend, but fit-wise, Humrichous, what he's able to do is fantastic. Now, something we have to get out of the way is that transferring to the Power 5, he would be going against better athletes, better defenders, players that close out quicker, players that are quicker, stronger, faster, you name it. So the level of play would be more competitive. But I think his skill set would translate to the Power 5 level. I don't know if he is a 15 point per game scorer at the ACC level, but I think double digits is respectable. If he's able to average 10 points a game with the team that Louisville has, that's pretty good. 6'9", shot 68% at the rim. Now, only about a third of his attempts came at the rim. He's more of a floor spacer. Pace and space. That term that my guy Ananias used on the Twitter space late last week, it's something that I keep gravitating towards. Humrichous does a great job of hunting down the space and making things happen when he gets into the space. 68% at the rim, does a good job as a slasher. Ultimately, we talk about the NBA 2K archetypes like pass rush point guard, a 3-and-D wing, slasher. I don't really know what you would consider Humrichous to be. Ultimately, it feels like point forward almost, because let me read you some of what Humrichous did this year. I can't even believe this because it's actually hilariously unique to say. When it comes to ball screen handling, as a handler in a ball screen, he ranked in the 97th percentile nationally in points per possession. Granted, this whole segment, you have to understand that he's going up against mid-major competition, but you're playing with mid-major teammates. He is very good at putting the ball on the ground, using his size to get to the rim where he's very efficient, and creating for others. He has a 13% assist rate. Something we keep coming back to is that it feels like Pat Kelsey's recruiting style is you have to have an over 10% assist rate if you want to be recruited by the University of Louisville. It feels like that is like a prerequisite. He's able to create for himself and others. He's in the 81st percentile in transition, oftentimes with the ball in his hands. So I think that point forward skill set, or that term, is probably more accurate than any of the other ones. And he's known for being a great shooter. 41% on 5 attempts, that's elite level shooting. He is not only efficient, but can get his shot in multiple different ways. He's 87th percentile in spot-up situations, can dribble into his shot. 13 three-pointers made this season came from beyond 25 feet of distance. So there's a ton of range. He's good in the corner. Probably where he's most deadly perimeter shooting is right above the break. And overall, like offensively speaking, everything that Humrichous does would fit a Pat Kelsey offense. He runs the floor well. Check. He passes well. Check. He can operate out of screens. As a ball handler at 6'9", that is wild to me. Check. Great shooter. Check, check, check. Good around the rim. Check. Now, he's not a great rebounder, 4.7 rebounds per game, which isn't like great numbers. But when you factor in that he's playing a lot of his time out on the perimeter, that's not terrible either. There's a ton of effort there. He has a high motor where it allows him to do well in transition. And it also makes him an opportunistic shot blocker, sort of like Aboubacar Traore. He's not going to be a guy that camps in the zone and just waits for guys to bring it in the paint and blocks the shot. But he gives great effort. He's got solid length and tenacity. He's got a 3.5% block rate, which when you look at that 0.9 blocks per game, it's not fantastic. You look at the 1.9 assists per game, not fantastic, but you really have to break it down to be more of an analytical approach. College basketball in general, is starting to get towards more analytics. Why is UConn so good? Because they've adopted a full-on commitment to analytical basketball led by Dan Hurley and Luke Murray. I miss Luke Murray. I miss seeing Bill Murray on the sidelines. I really would love to see Pat Kelsey completely submerge his recruiting efforts in the name of analytics. Ben Humrichous is analytically a fantastic player. He fits into this scheme and this style of play. He wouldn't be a number one scoring option, which I think would help his transition to Power 5 basketball. He might not even be a second scoring option. That helps because he has the skill set good enough to be able to create his own offense. So I would love to see Louisville really, really get involved in this when he took an official visit. I would love to see him be one of the next two commitments. I don't know if this is true, but it seems like I heard that Indiana and Purdue might be right there in this recruitment, but I'm not necessarily so sure. I can't confirm it, but interested to see who the next commitment is going to be for the men's basketball program. But we have to talk about what Jeff Walz is doing. He's added 2 big-time commitments. We'll talk about Imari Berry and Jalea Williams here in just a moment after we tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. The Louisville women's basketball season didn't end the way we wanted it to. That goes without saying. Louisville lost in the first round. That's unheard of in the Jeff Walz era. But what has happened in the offseason is that most of this roster has stayed together. You've had a couple players that don't have any more eligibility, some players that entered the portal. But Louisville, main thing is they have a very, very good freshman class coming in. It's led by a couple of top 25 players. McKinley Randolph, the daughter of Zach Randolph. Tatiana Avant-Roberts is ranked in the top 25. You have Azela Arenas, the daughter of Gilbert Arenas. Anaya Hardy, 6'4" forward from Michigan. And I think is it Isla Juffermans from Australia, 6'4" international player. Louisville had some scholarships to fill, and there were a couple players that Louisville was really going after. The big news is they got probably their top prospect, Imari Berry. Imari is ranked as the 19th best player according to Hoop Girls, the ESPN recruiting site. She's now the 3rd top 25 commitment in the Louisville class, 5'10" guard from Clarksville, Tennessee. Fantastic player overall. Tremendous feel for the game, is going to be able to immediately affect this team when it comes to court vision and passing. Very good passer, great vision, ability to watch the offense develop in the half court. The shot creation ability is off the charts. Great three-point shooter. And like I said, the feel for the game is there. I could see her playing a lot early on. Sometimes it feels like freshmen, highly ranked freshmen, come to Louisville and it takes them a little while to get acclimated. I could definitely see Imari Berry being an exception to that trend, a player that's going to play a good amount. Right now, you lose some point guards. You have Jada Curry back, and you have some other players back, but you're going to have a fairly young team with some veterans mixed in. Your front court is going to be a lot of veterans, where you have the back court that's going to have more youth than veteran leadership. But I like this addition. Jeff Walz wins a big recruitment. Louisville women's basketball has needed some elite high school recruiting over the past couple of classes, and this class has 4 top 100 players, 3 of those being inside of the top 25. So really, really interested to see what exactly we're going to see from Imari Berry this season, because I think that she can have a fantastic year. The transfer portal addition that the Cardinals just added was Jalea Williams from Miami. I've had some people ask me, Dalton, what do you think about this addition? Because the statistics aren't going to jump off the page to you. Jalea, the 5'9" junior from Pompano Beach, Florida, has 1 year of eligibility remaining. Spent her past 3 seasons at Miami. Averaged 7 points per game this season, 4.5 rebounds per game, 2.7 assists per game, while shooting 43% from the field. I think 32% from 3. She's not really known for being like the go-to offensive scorer, although she's shown that she can be an opportunistic scorer, which I think that you need, right? I'm definitely confident that she understands what is expected at the ACC level. But what Louisville really missed last year was that toughness and defensive tenacity that Mikasa Robinson left behind. Defense was not the greatest from this team, which was very uncharacteristic of a Jeff Walz team. Walz even said it's like, this is just not that tough of a team. Jalea Williams will bring that toughness and defense. She was widely regarded as one of, if not the best defender in the ACC. Not every player that you have to bring in is going to be a 20 points per game scorer. I like this addition because it is 100% simply addressing something that this team struggled with last year. That grit, that toughness, and definitely on-ball defense. Jalea Williams will bring all 3, and it will be something that is much needed for this Cardinals team, especially in the backcourt that will have a lot of youth. So there's going to be that veteran leadership, that's going to be that valuable ACC experience, and it's going to be that defense that we are used to seeing. And I think that Mikasa Robinson was a fan favorite, one of the program greats. I think Jalea Williams is as good of an all-ball defender as Mikasa Robinson, or at least close to. It's hard to be as good as an on-ball defender as Mikasa. But I like both of these additions. You get a veteran that understands this conference and understands what Jeff Walz is going to want from the team. You also get an elite level top 20 high school prospect that is very highly regarded that many programs want. So I'm very, very excited for next year, and I'm hoping that Louisville can bounce back with a good season in 2024-25. That's going to wrap up today's episode of the show. It is Sunday night, 9 o'clock when this is ending. So if a commitment happens before this or before you see this, just know things change very quickly. But everyone have a great day. Have a great start to your week. We'll see you right back here on Monday.